Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's webinar. Today we'll be covering the year-end closing procedures for receivables, payables, and the general ledger. My name is Scott. I am a consultant here with Implementation Specialist, and we figured this would be a good way to start off the new year here, since a lot of us are probably looking to do this year, since fiscal and calendar years kind of match up for a lot of us. What we're going to be covering today is suggested order of module year-end closing. This order comes from the fact that many modules flow into one another, so we want to make sure that it's done in the correct order, so there isn't, to try and minimize, if not negate, any interruptions that may occur. Then the receivables, payables, and GL year-end closing, followed by some notes, a couple of links to some KB articles, which you can pull up by the KB number, or I can send you out the links via email. And then just a quick Q&A at the end here. We'll probably be pausing after each of the year-end closing procedures here, just to see if anybody has any questions. Everybody has been muted, so if you do have any questions, feel free to go to webinar menu to type them into the questions field or raise your hand, and I'll be happy to help you. All right, the suggested year-end closing order starts with inventory, which then goes to receivables, then payables, finally fixed assets, analytical accounting, and the general ledger. Big question that some people have is, where is payroll listed in there? Payroll year-ends are completely independent of the procedures above. And again, this is because not all companies run the same fiscal and calendar years, but employee taxes are always done by calendar year, at least in the US here. When should you do the year-end closing for the receivables management? Whether it is the fiscal, the calendar, or both, you should do the process as soon as you're done with that year before processing any transactions for the next year, which means, for example, it is now 2019, the first business day for many of us here. So you'd want to make sure you have all of 2018 posted, then do this, and then begin to post for 2019. It's not to say you can't enter in transactions for the new year. It's just I would not post them. Just save them into a batch until it's complete if possible. What does the year-end closing do? Calendar year-end close clears the calendar year-to-date finance charges and moves them to the last year calendar field on the windows. Fiscal year basically moves the other ones not listed above to the last year window. This is the big reason why you want to make sure you post all of 2018 but not post 2019, as this year-end procedure is not date specific. If it's GP will throw everything into the year-to-date summary, whether it's calendar year, fiscal year 2018, 2019, 2020. So when that gets all thrown over and you run the year-end, it just moves all of that over and it basically zeroes out your year-to-date here. One moment here. Oh, I lost my. All right. And just to kind of show you that window here. Cards, sale. Oh, there it is. Summary. Just going to grab one here at random here. As you can see, it shows some information here. The years to date, sales cost, all that will get moved over when you run the processes there, depending on which one you're running. And again, here's the calendar one, that this is what the calendar does. The fiscal finance charges here, as you can see, tied to the different calendars here. So again, all it does is it just moves that summary information over. This ultimately does mean that closing these modules is not required, but if you use these summary information for anything, one key thing is, I know, like on purchasing, your 1099 forms, a lot of people use the summary to make sure that the 1099s are correct. If you don't maintain this well, it can cause some issues if you attempt to use it that way. All right, what are the steps to do that? Again, post all your sales and receivable transactions for the year. Make up a backup of your database, both your Dynamics and your company databases. close the year and the fiscal periods. Again, those are kind of optional here. Close the tax year. Well, not the close the fiscal period is actually close the years, run the actual year-end close, excuse me. Close the tax year. This is optional because this can only be done once in GP. So if you're only using receivables, if you don't use payables management or anything like that, you close it now. Otherwise, if you're doing payables, you'd want to wait for that. And then make a backup of your databases again. Now, if you're doing all of your modules back to back, you can kind of skip the pre if you made a post of the previous module, like receiving go straight into payables. You don't need to make the pre, because if you make the post receivables backup, you've already got that backup here. And the reason to do this is if something happens, a lot of times your data can get damaged and corrupted here. So best way to do that is to simply just restore. That will open everything up and give it a go again here. All right, so we're going to hop over here. Into sales here, our receivables. And under routines here, year-end close. All right, year to close here, it'll have all the fiscal or the calendar. You can select any of those. Now, I am in GP 2018 here, and this is the Fabricam test data here. So that's why it hasn't showing that it's been closed, but this will show what it was last closed here. And then there's the option to print the reports. Once you're ready, everything's been posted. I come in here, it's going to ask you if you want to continue with that. And they'll have a year-end report here that we can print. I do recommend you save these reports. You can save them as a PDF and just file them away on this file server or anything. So if anyone has any questions regarding numbers that would have changed during the process, we can pull that back up here. There's our salesperson report here. There are quite a few of these reports here. Sales here, and then once it prints the reports here, it'll zip on through. Like I said, I'm in the Fabricam data. There's not a lot in here, so that's going pretty quick here. Back into here, you can see that my fiscal and calendar years were both closed on April 12, 2027. And then make the backup. Again, recommend you do that through SQL Management Studio here. For those that want to do close the fiscal periods here under company. What it means by close the periods is here are the fiscal periods. So now that we're done with receivables for the year, what I can do is come down here and block all of this off. Now the reason for this is GP will allow you to continue to post to these dates here because the fiscal year is still open. That doesn't close until we do financials. So by marking them off here, we can't have somebody come in after the fact and post something. If they want to do it, we have to reopen it up. Again, all the year-end close really does is move over summary information here. So that would be off then. I would not recommend rerun year-end close because all that will do is it'll just take that little bit from that one transaction, move it year to date, and then the year to date will drop off here. But that is the receivables management. All right, payables. When should you do payables here? It's the same time here. When you're basically done posting everything for the previous year and before you post any transactions for the next year. Again, if you save them to a batch, that's fine. Just make sure you don't post them here because that will cause again, the summary changes issues here. And again, all it does is it just changes some summary information around. Again, the PM here, and a lot of our, or not a lot, but a couple of our customers here use the summary information for 1099 verification. So if we keep that correct there, everything will look good. And then the fiscal year close transfers all other amounts not listed above over to the summary there. And then I'll show you that here quick. cards, purchasing under summary. And then we'll click on the yearly button. Yearly button here, it has like the 1099 amounts and all the columns. And all it does is, depending on which one's closed, we'll move certain ones of these over to last year. Life to date doesn't get changed on that one here, although you can change the summary views here by fiscal year, calendar year as well. All right, this one has a few more steps to it here. Post all your transactions for the year. Print an age child balance with reports option, and a vendor period analysis reports. The reason that is recommended here is to make sure that that you have something to compare the pre-figures to. Install the payroll year-end update. That is optional here. A lot of times, that depending on when you're running this, it may not be recommended. Make a backup of your database pre-1099 edits. Verify the 1099 info and edit as needed and print those out. Then make another backup called post-1099 edits. The reason for the double ones is depending on how much work you have to do. If something happens during that year-end close, we don't want to have to go back to pre-1099 edits. So having that after the safe year can save you a lot of time if the worst happens. Close the year, the fiscal periods, the tax year. We'll cover that in here in a bit. And then make up the backup of your databases again. So just kind of run you through the year-end close process here. Your trail balance with the options. I had to jump back to my notes there here. Your vendor period analysis. Edit your 1099 information here. Print those. Once you have all that done here, we'll want to run the year-end close. And it's very similar to the receivables here. All again, there's the option to print the report. As you can see, it's printing it out here. 18 pages. And then that's it. It's pretty quick. It's the one report, and it's already updated here. So I'm going to go ahead and just pause there here. These are kind of rather simple here. Just double check and see if we have any questions that may have come in. Oh, I do have one here. Can you adjust 1099 amounts after you close the AP for the year? Let us. That is a good question here. So let's go ahead and just pull up a so it's going to pull it up here. So vendor 1099 details. Okay, so that's one moment here. I got to remember how to pull this. Nope. Okay, let me, I will follow up with you on this one here. Ronald here. It's unfortunately it's a process that kind of only gets done once a year here, so I can't remember off the top of my head, unfortunately, where that is, but I will double check that just for you and just verify that with you and let you know here. I do apologize about that here. But I'm not seeing any other information here, so, or any other questions, I apologize. So on to the GL closing. When should you do the year-end closing for the general ledger? After all other modules have undergone their year-end closing process, and again, after you have everything posted in for the GL. So if you don't post through to the GL, make sure all your post 2 batches get posted. What does the year-end closing general ledger do? This is where it does more than just the summary records here. Any accounts that are marked as profit and loss are put into the return earning account or accounts if you use the divisional earnings. Balance sheet accounts balances are rolled forward and have a balance brought forward entry created. And all general ledger records on the 20,000 table, which is the open year, are moved to the historical table. The inactive general ledger accounts without a balance and no historical transactions are removed. If you are not maintaining inactive accounts, it is recommended that you do maintain those here, and I will show you how to do that. The year that was just closed is marked as historical, and if it is installed and activated, analytical accounting is also automatically closed along with the general ledger. And I know that the order were listed to analytical accounting before general ledger, but they are technically kind of done at the same time. What does this incur? Complete the posting and closing procedures for all other modules. If you need to do any adjustments, do them now. Print an account list to verify posting types of all accounts. There are ways that if you had like a balance sheet that's actually marked as profit and loss, that we can correct that as a one-off. However, if you have a bunch of accounts where that is incorrect, we might have to reopen the year, correct all those accounts, and then reclose here. That caused a lot of issues here. Perform file maintenance on the financial series here, check links and whatnot. Verify the settings in the GL setup window here, especially if you're using divisional accounts for retained earnings. Make a backup of your databases. Print a final detailed trial balance report. Print your year-end financial statements. Set up the new fiscal year if you have not done already. Close the fiscal year, close the fiscal periods for all series. Adjust budget figures for the new years. Print your financial statements, and then make a backup of your databases. This would be the last one in the process here, post-final year-end backup. And I will show you what that looks like here. So after you have all your reports and everything is posted here, again, it is just under the routines. Year-end closing, there it is. All right, now this one looks a little bit different. There's the retained earnings account. Okay, I kind of want to show these side by side here. It has a retained earnings account where you can certainly select other accounts. It's not recommended. Starting journal entry, this will create a lot of journals because again, each account's getting posted forward here. Remove unused segment numbers. If you had created a segment that was never used, you can remove those. Right here is the option, maintain inactive accounts. I strongly recommend you always check maintain inactive accounts and all inactive accounts. The reason why for this is nowadays it's not going to affect a lot. Computer storage is cheap. We can maintain that historical information. And if you ever get on close historical year. And then again, here's the retained earnings if you do divisional segments here. This is just saying, this is just more that there's a batch in the batches here that has not been posted. You want to continue closing? Yes, I do. The one thing I want to note here is the little green bar here. This is kind of a big deal here. I was actually with Microsoft when this first came out here. So what would happen is a lot of people, it would just spin and nothing would happen, especially that ones that had hundreds of thousands or millions of transactions every year. That's a lot of work. And like I said, this is the Fabricam data. So there isn't a lot to it here. And then the year-end closing report here, again, all these year-ends I do recommend you print and save, even if you just save them to the screen and then send them to your PDF printer or print out physical copies here. And this just gives you all of that account information there. And then again here, it's recommended to close all the series, and that's because you can post back. Like that said, it was 2024 here. So as you can see, it's now marked as historical. 2025 is not. This actually is not a. You can check it here, but it'll throw you a that you can't mark as historical year. I'm not a fan of it being a checkbox like that. I made a change here because it can only be done in GP here, which was kind of grayed out for e-convenience. But the reason why we do recommend graying this out here is GP allows you to post one historical year back. So even though we've closed 2014, this is now the most recent historical year. I can still post to 2024, not 2014, excuse me here. So we want to make sure that this gets closed. So somebody tries to post something, oh no, we forgot this receipt. We can make sure it gets entered in properly. Now GP will automatically update the balance brought forwards and the retained earnings accounts accordingly, depending on how the accounts included in that transaction are hit. So we're smart for that, and that's also kind of the reason why you can only do one historical year back, because the calculations to do farther than that would be quite a bit here. All right, there's one thing I do want to point out here, and that is these 3 KP articles, and they are linked on our page here. These give in-depth, step-by-step instructions here to close out the year here, and they include links. You can jump to certain parts. On the GP side, it'll even kind of give you you scroll down here, it'll show you the order, and this is kind of where I pulled that from there. It'll even give you step-by-steps what to click and where to click on that one here. Oh, the closed tax year. I forgot about that one here. All right, we'll kind of just show that here quick after your PM here. Routines, company, tax year end close. You'd want to do this after your payables here, or your receivables if you really do it. You can print the report first just to see what it's going to look like. And that just gives you kind of your tax information here. And as you can see, it's still 00. So if we've seen the report here, so I'm just gonna. It's going through a little ticker there as well. All right. Well, that was that first note there. Here again, you should only do it after you're done with both receivables and payables. Again, if you don't use payables, you can do it right after receivables here. One thing I do want to note here is for those of you that may do the RM or PM later in the year, I do know that it happens. You send your accounts off for audit, make sure your numbers look good before you close. That can sometimes take weeks or months depending on the business of your auditors. You can't really postpone your business that long. Unfortunately, so what you still do is you do the is you run it then, but it's still going to affect your summaries. If you do use your summaries, we do actually have a tool here called Summary Recalc, which will basically just recalculate those fields for you here. It is very handy for those of our customers that do use the fields. And it gets it back pretty quick there. And then if possible, always run your year-end procedures from the SQL Server using the SA credentials if you have them. Now, the reasons for run it off of the SQL Server is if those of you that maybe use GP know that if there's an issue with the network connection, you may get errors like cannot close table or cannot find a view. And what that can do is interrupt the process here. That's why you want to make the backups. But if we do it directly from the SQL Server itself, as long as GP is installed, that kind of eliminates a lot of the networking issues. And then doing it as SA, make sure that you do have access to all of the Windows modules and everything here. So there isn't a security issue where you bump up against a process you don't actually, window or a port or something you don't have access to. That can cause the interruption. So by doing it on the SQL Server as SA, we'll completely take care of that issue here for you. And here are the links, and again, I can send those out here, or just by, if you do a search just by the KB articles too, that will find them. And those are those year-end closing procedure knowledge base articles here. They generally don't change from year to year. They're pretty solid here, and they're a great resource if you're doing your year-end close yourself. All right. And I know this may have felt a little rushed here. We want to make sure that we stuck to our new half-hour time limit format here to make sure we weren't burying people, causing them delays here. Ronald, I still have your one question here that I would definitely get back to you on here. But does anybody else have any questions at this time? All right, well, if that is everything then, I would like to thank you for joining me this afternoon. Again, my name is Scott. I'm one of the consultants here at IS Corp. Phone number is right up there, 218-486-5095. Just ask for me, or you can email me directly, scott@iscorp.biz. Or you can go to support@iscorp.biz, at which time that will go into our general mailbox, and the next available consultant will reach out to you to help you. With that, I do like to thank everybody that showed up today. I do hope you learned something. If this is not your first go-around with year end, I do hope the refresher at least proved useful for you. Thank you very much, and you all have a wonderful day.